Let's get started.
Yeah, let's see.
All right, gang, welcome back to Catch Chronicles. I'm here with my friend Javi. We got Jimmy on the board. Hey, Jimmy.
What up?
What's up?
We're here in snowy, goddamn, should have never come back to this hellhole, Calgary.
Legit snowstorm today on the 2nd of April.
Welcome to April. Shovel your car out for half a
yeah.
goddamn hour.
Yeah, 20
But that's
minutes,
okay. We love it here.
Really do.
Yeah, it's pretty good. It's pretty good. Today, my friends,
What are we
we're going to
talking
talk about Kazushi Sakuraba. Now, Javi, tell me, what do you know about Kazushi Sakuraba?
The Gracie Killer.
The Gracie Killer.
I definitely went down a rabbit hole and just watched like a bunch of Sakuraba at some point because people that I respected say you have to check out this dude, and they were correct. You
It's
have to
so
check
much fun.
out this
It's
dude.
so much
Oh
fun.
my god.
So you're versed in Sakuraba. You've seen some Sakuraba.
I went down at least one drunken rabbit hole one night for sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's the best way to watch or learn anything.
Yes, jump on YouTube.
Just get about 16, 17 drinks in you.
And just
And watch some men beat the shit out of each other.
yeah, great.
So Sakuraba, the Gracie Hunter, the Gracie Killer, kind of like
Gracie Hunter. Is it the Gracie Hunter?
it was both.
Okay.
I don't know if that's a translation issue where it could be either way. You know what I mean?
Fair.
Kind of like the great Japanese hope in MMA.
Yeah.
Like the home star promotion, the guy who kind of brought pride, no pun intended, back to Japanese martial arts, and he did it as a pro wrestler,
Was that
which
pun
I
not
love.
intended?
Representing,
I'm sorry, that pun sounded pretty intended to me, but
it's.
sorry.
Do you know how much reading I've done about Pride FC?
Anyway, sorry. Please continue.
Oh god. So, yeah, he comes into Pride, dominates, and he does it under the banner of pro wrestling, which I love. Which isn't fair, because really he should have been doing it under the banner of catch wrestling.
Yeah.
And catch wrestling really could have used that kind of promotion, but also at the time pro wrestling could really use that kind of promotion. So Sakuraba was kind of not only a savior for the Japanese martial arts community, but a savior for pro wrestling at a time when all of his mentors had embarrassed the sport pretty thoroughly. Sakuraba was born in '69, so he's the youngest dude we've talked about so far by
A
pretty wide margin here. And he grows up loving Tiger Mask, which is a manga and anime in Japan that starts, I think the year he was born, maybe '68. And it's about a masked pro wrestler named Tiger Mask, of course.
That's the same Tiger Mask you talked about before.
And then eventually,
became
about
a
10 years
wrestler.
later, they New Japan Pro Wrestling licenses the Tiger Mask image and makes a pro wrestler of Satoru Sayama, who we're going to get into at another time. So that's kind of what inspires Sakuraba to get into wrestling. And Sakuraba is like such a huge wrestling fan because if he's born in '69, when he's like 13, now Tiger Mask is an actual wrestler. And so now he's like obsessive. And Sakuraba's got a little bit of that obsessive kind of otaku, nerdy kind of thing going on to him anyway. Otaku is like this Japanese subculture. It's a really broad thing to get into, but it's kind of like the way like the Japanese company man, the kind of striving for success, the grind of Japanese culture of like always doing your best, the obsessiveness about it, kind of created like a lost generation of men who just gave up and they just like lived their whole lives in a spare bedroom at their mom's house eating noodles and collecting figurines.
Because there's no point. I'm not going to be that, so I'm going to do
Yeah,
nothing.
like the pressure broke them.
Jesus.
So it's this kind of like subculture of like ultra nerddom, kind of like incels, but less likely to shoot people. You know what I mean? Like incels without the terrorism. So and it's kind of become like almost a badge of honor. Like there's like otaku shops where all the nerds can get together and buy their Pokemon cards or whatever, right? Sorry, nerds. A lot of my friends are nerds. You guys,
I'm
your guys
I'm
are great.
I'm the biggest nerd. I'm
I'm
fine.
writing a fucking wrestling podcast. I'm clearly a dweeb. You know what I mean?
I'm running my D&D. I just spent like 2 days just making 3D printing for my D&D session on Sunday. So
You know what? That's very true.
like I think I win.
Yeah, you did. I saw it.
It's awesome.
It's pretty nerdy, man.
It's pretty goddamn nerdy.
So Sakuraba becomes such a huge wrestling fan that he tries to drop out of high school.
Jesus.
He just wants to wrestle. But luckily, he gets talked out of dropping out and gets turned on to the amateur wrestling team.
Okay.
And Sakuraba
There we go.
becomes like a great amateur wrestler.
Okay.
Standout high school amateur wrestler. Gets recruited, goes to university. His coach is an Olympic gold medalist. He's wrestling and competing against other Olympic level wrestlers in university. Like he's a
big guy, right? Like, what is he wrestling at?
He's not too big. He's not like a short guy.
Yeah.
But he's wrestling around like 170, 180.
Okay.
And I think it takes a long time for it to get up. I think he starts at like 150, 160, and then when he gets to 180, he's just, like he refuses to ever go down a weight class because he's like, no, I can't get any smaller. I can't go back to being a scrawny kid. And he gets offered, when he graduates from university, he's offered a job to come in and start as an assistant coach at the university for wrestling. He's a standout. He's a great amateur wrestler. But his heart is set on pro wrestling. I mean, he loves pro wrestling, which I understand, Sakuraba. And of course, this is mid to late 80s.
Yeah.
I guess really it'd be late 80s, early 90s. And of course, he's kind of got enough pedigree that he can probably get into any dojo he wants to, right? So New Japan is, of course, the biggest option.
Yeah.
And then he's got Shudo because Tiger Mask Satoru Sayama has started Shudo now, and Shudo's 100% legit.
Yeah.
And Sakuraba's very capable of legitimacy.
Fucking
but he opts to kind of go for the middle ground, which is UWFI, which is Nobuhiko Takada, who we talked about last week with the first Pride and the UWFI. He opts to go for Nobuhiko Takada's UWFI because it's kind of the best of both worlds. It's still pro wrestling, but there's like a kind of sort of realism to it.
They're really trying to get that.
They're trying to get a niche market going here for really trying to not make it as unsee-through as you can. Like, no transparency. This is, of course, before people actually started seeing real fights in mainstream, where it becomes pretty transparent pretty quick. So he joins UWFI as a student, what they would call a young boy. In Japan, it's like you're a young boy. So you're a student at the dojo, and you're also kind of a slave.
Sure.
He's working with Yoji Anjo, who you might remember from last week as the man who embarrassed professional wrestling to no end by getting turned to ground beef by Ixon Gracie.
Right.
But also, they bring in, at UWFI, they bring in Billy Robinson. They bring in Lou Thez, who is a pretty good hooker shooter in his day and like one of the greatest pro wrestlers of all time. Right. They bring in Danny Hodge, Danny Hodge is a real interesting cat because Danny Hodge was like, he's a junior heavyweight. He's not a big guy. Golden Gloves boxing champion, amateur wrestling champion, like one of the most legit badasses in the history of pro wrestling. Like if MMA existed in the 50s, he would not have been a pro wrestler. Cool. There's no way. Known for he would go to like a hardware store and break all the pliers. Or he'd rip apples in half. And one time he got into a car wreck, rolled down a ravine, broke his neck in the process, dragged himself out of the car, propped his own head up, and walked up to the highway and like thumbed a car down or something. Like a real badass.
Jesus Murphy.
And he's getting, also the thing about UWFI is like, because they want everything to look so legit, they're bringing in guys like this.
Yeah.
That can, even if you're going to learn how to work it, you're going to learn how to work it in the most like concrete way.
Like, here's the real technique, and
here's the
you
real-
can fudge it a little bit.
Yeah, like, which I learned like a little bit of that when I was in wrestling school. Like, theory always get taught, like, this is how you do it for real, this is how you do it fake.
Okay.
But like I wasn't learning from Billy Robinson and Danny Hodge, you know what I mean? And they're also bringing in like Bovi Chowai Kung, which I'm sure I did not say right. A Mai Tai master.
I'm not gonna try.
To do strike training, striking coach. And he's becoming like a really well-rounded fighter. He's clearly, I think, the wrestling element is what he's most interested in, but he's learning strikes and he's learning a little bit of boxing. Eventually he'll go and learn a little bit of BJJ. And Billy Robinson takes a huge shine to Sakuraba.
Not the easiest thing to do.
No, not a man easily impressed.
Yeah.
Not a man who suffers fools. And I think Robinson just sees like a lot of discipline and really strong fundamentals in Sakuraba, which Sakuraba has because he was a world-class wrestler already, really.
Which is the best base. So.
Which is the best base, and also like nothing makes you grittier than amateur wrestling.
Probably why it's the best base.
It's the grittiest thing you could do, like
legitimately.
Robinson does take issue with some things about like he talks about, which Robinson talks about in detail quite a lot, about like kind of the Japanese caste system of like Sakuraba could clearly wipe the floor with Takada, but he would never do it.
Yeah,
he would always be kind of demure. He'd always hold back.
Deferential.
Deferential, yes.
Yeah.
He would defer to Takada even when they were rolling around, and Robinson would pull him aside and say, "Listen, we both know you could have got his ankle there. You could have got his arm there. You could have got his wrist there. Take it, because in the snake pit, you win if you can win. You know what I mean? You're gonna lose next week.
Yeah,
get your win.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But like Sakuraba, I think was always deferential to Takada, and it really frustrated people like Billy Robinson. I think it frustrated probably Karl Gotch too in a lot of situations, watching this kind of
it's a
weird
different world.
It's a different world, and I think this is going to be a reoccurring theme in this episode, because Sakuraba's entire career is him deferring to Takada in a way that gets pretty hard to watch eventually.
Okay.
So by the early 90s, Sakuraba's now competing for the UWFI, but he's still a young boy, right? And the thing about being the young boy, as I said, like, not only are you a student, but you're also kind of a slave, right? Yeah. Like, you got to carry everybody's bags. You're at the dojo scrubbing the floor. You're at the dojo sleeping under the ring, or you're sleeping on the mats. You know what I mean? Like, you're pretty much a slave boy for the whole thing.
Very low on the social totem pole.
Like especially in sumo. It probably was kind of out of pro wrestling at this point, but it'd be like, oh, the young boy goes into the shower and washes the guy's back.
Yeah.
Come on, really? We got to do that kind of shit. But he's a very clear like top prospect. He's up there with Yoshihiro Takayama, who we're gonna watch his fight with Don Fry because it's one of the best fights ever. Kiyoshi Tamura, who would maybe be like just behind Sakuraba as like the shining light, the beacon of hope for Japanese MMA in the late 90s, early 2000s. These are kind of the guys that Takada is really counting on to be the next generation of stars. But they're kind of coming up at a bad time for that, because they're coming up in the UWFI as everything's falling apart because of the incompetence of Anjo and Takada, and because of what they were selling is almost becoming obsolete because of how
just the way the world's changing.
How MMA is coming to the forefront, and now people can see the difference between working a shoot and shooting a shoot. And here we go with the stupid, confusing language of pro wrestling.
And of course, it's that took my brain a second there.
Are you going to work the shooter? Or are you going to shoot the shooter? Or are we going to shoot a work?
And it's different if you're really leaning on the more work side of it. If you're working on the more theatrical side of shit, then you're already so far away from it looking real, then it maybe wouldn't be as big of a deal. But if your whole gimmick is trying to make this look as legitimate as possible, something truly legitimate must have been devastating.
Yeah. Yeah. And there's certain things you just can't use. Like, people in UWFI would still throw a drop kick sometimes. You can't throw a drop kick. That's not the way that, like,
Well, what's the drop kick is famous for? What? That's just when you
The
just
drop
run
kick
and
is-
just jump and kick and kick a person.
the drop kick is more like a fluid, pretty, almost acrobatic move. It's not like the Bruce Lee, like, one leg out, one leg in.
Yeah.
Kick. It's not like that.
No, it's like the 2 foot, right?
Like,
just
like
jump
you
and-
have to fall on your ass or on your face to even do it. Like, it makes no sense in a fight.
Okay, I see.
Like, I've seen people do it on like a rugby field and get kicked off a game. But that wasn't a fight. That was a sneak attack. You know what I mean?
That's
Like, it's a
rugby.
great sneak attack.
Okay.
It's a wonderful sneak attack. So, the UWFI is doing this cross promotion, as we talked about with New Japan Pro Wrestling,
Yeah.
which is kind of their last gasp of breath. And Sakuraba's really kind of showing a lot of improvement. He's losing always these worked fights. You know what I mean? Because New Japan was not going to lose this thing. They had all the cards, right?
Yeah.
But Sakuraba's kind of he's showing spirit in defeat, which is very important in pro wrestling, right? To go in, lose a match, but still look better coming out of that loss than you did going in.
Ooh.
Which
yeah,
is
that
like a
takes some
really
skill.
like that's the sign of a great pro wrestler. He's learning how to do that. He's getting over with the UWFI office. He gets his first main event against Yoji Anjo, the guy who's pretty much dug the grave for this company. And it's the last show UWFI ever does. So
Wow.
he finally makes it to the main event for the last ever show. In
Would he have
night-
known? Would he have known that this is going to be one of the last shows?
I'm assuming he would have, but this is wrestling, so
Yeah.
maybe
There
like
might have been speculation, but he wouldn't. Like, yeah.
yeah, the way wrestling's kind of. Let's put it this way: my old tag partner once worked a tour in Newfoundland. It was like a 9-date tour, something. They brought in some stars. Second to last night, promoter takes all of the money and leaves. Strands everyone in Newfoundland, never pays them a dime.
Straight up, just
Yeah.
bounces.
One time we worked together, me and this guy, for this dude in Nova Scotia for a while. And he would drive us to the shows in the back of the U-Haul. Like, he would rent a U-Haul to put the ring in, and then he'd put all the workers in the U-Haul with the ring and drive us to whatever little butt-fuck town we were going to. And,
Not illegal at all.
And we decided to stop working for him. And on the very next show, he did that and then demanded that the wrestlers put the ring away before they shower. And then he just drove off with the money in the ring and left them all stranded in fucking Shubenacadie or Schenectady or some weird ass Nova Scotia town with no way to get home and nowhere
no
to stay,
Uber,
nowhere to
like-
go. You know what I mean? That's
Holy
wrestling, and that doesn't really change on the big stage either.
Okay.
A lot of people in WCW didn't know it was going to close until the day they showed up for the last show, and the McMahons were there. You know, it's carny shit.
Okay, that is some carny shit.
Yeah. So UWFI closes. He's just on the brink of becoming a name,
Yeah.
and his promotion closes. Takada goes and starts this other promotion called Kingdom. Nothing really happens, but Sakuraba's like, he's a Takada guy. He's Takada's boy. So he's kind of just around with Takada, helping him train, eventually helping him train for this Gracie fight,
Right.
for the Hicks and Gracie fight, which becomes the first Pride event.
Right.
So at this time, he's not being promoted as a fighter, really. He did have, like, they say that in UWFI, he had one legitimate shoot match against Rene Roos, who was like a Dutch kickboxer of some merit, you know what I mean? And
I think I know who you're talking about.
yeah, Rene Roos was like one of those early Dutch, because like the Dutch were
Yeah.
like really dominant for a while.
Fuck yeah.
They were just behind like the Brazilians for a long time with Bas Ruud and,
Yeah.
Gerard Giroux and things like that. And he won the supposedly shoot fight by securing a toe hold after taking a hellacious beating for like 20 minutes. Like a little bit of a rope-a-dope where like he just got stomped by this guy and then took his moment.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And he has to go and corner Takada and watch him get his ass handed to him. And he comes on as one of Takada's training partners when Takada goes to LA to train for the rematch.
Right.
And when he's in LA rolling around with all these guys, he starts to get a lot of attention from these other fighters because it's very clear that like Takada doesn't stand a chance and never will. But this Sakuraba cat's actually impressing a lot of people. Baz Rutten was super impressed with him. Like a lot of cats are quite impressed with him, and it doesn't mean shit because the next thing he does is go back to Japan and lose in a fake fight to Kimo Leopoldo.
To who? Sorry.
Kimo.
Oh, okay.
Fucking ridiculous Kimo. So he goes back, loses a fixed fight to Kimo Leopoldo, even though he's like clearly the most talented guy in the Takada camp. He's still getting the young boy treatment. You know what I mean? He's still being taken advantage of, being talked into doing things he doesn't need to do. But then he gets his big break because he is one of the representatives at the UFC Japan event.
Oh, okay.
The UFC's first show outside of America, their first show in Japan,
What
and they're going to hold...
show was that?
That was in 97, so I don't think it even has a number.
Yeah.
I think it's just UFC Japan,
yeah, that's right.
right?
That's right.
And Japan's a hot market for MMA right now.
Yeah.
Much hotter than America is. Because there's also... No one's fighting them, which is a big part. And I think just the history of martial arts in Japan, the history of pro wrestling.
Of course.
It's a much hotter market. So he and Yoji Anjo
Keeps coming back.
are the Japanese representatives for this UFC Japan fight, or a tournament rather. And Anjo loses his first round match, of course.
Yeah.
Sakuraba goes in against Marcus Silveira, BJJ black belt. Very competent guy who's got a lot of size on him. I'm talking about 5 inches taller and 60 pounds heavier. Because Sakuraba is in this 200-pound and up tournament. He's in a heavyweight tournament.
Right.
At 183. Because he's a replacement for a fighter.
Oh, shit.
So he actually lied about his weight. Because it's the UFC in the 90s, so, like, I don't know, you just show up and say something.
Yeah.
There's no regulation.
I don't even know if there weren't weight classes really.
A lot of the times there weren't.
Yeah.
No.
At that point, no.
And he goes in, and he's pretty, like, dominant in this fight with this black belt, this BJJ black belt. And then Silveira gets the upper hand for a second, throws a series of punches, and Big John McCarthy calls it. And John McCarthy calls it the worst call of his career. And Sakuraba, in like a very uncharacteristic display, like really protests. He's trying to get the mic from Bruce Buffer. Ooh. He stages a sit-in. He refuses to leave the ring. He takes his mouth guard out and throws it on the ground. His corner's going nuts. And it's, eventually he leaves. But he puts up a huge stink about it. The crowd's dismayed because he's one of 2 Japanese guys. The other guy's already out. So he was kind of the big hero for the night. And he's been kind of screwed out of it. But in like a really serendipitous circumstance, Tank Abbott, who won the other fight, who destroyed Anjo, Tank Abbott broke his hand.
Oh, yeah.
He has to pull out. So instead of giving Silveira like a bye and giving the automatic win, the UFC decide last minute, 'cause this is a live event, right?
Yeah.
We're going to have that first match. We're going to have that Sakuraba-Silveira match over again. And pretty quickly and definitively, Sakuraba takes the arm off the guy. Mm-hmm. Armbar submission. He wins. He's the UFC Japan champ. First ever. Storybook ending. And as the wonderful worker that he is, in the post-fight interview, Sakuraba says, "In fact, pro wrestling is strong," which is such a Japanese thing to say. In fact, pro wrestling is strong. Great. Great. Translates super well. But it's like a real testament to Sakuraba being like a through and through worker. You know what I mean? He's a pro wrestling guy.
And if anyone just needs a good chuckle, just look up Tank Abbott and hit images and just enjoy.
Tank.
What
Tank
a
Abbott
human
is
being
one of the most. Tank Abbott went on to wrestle for a while for
Did he
WCW
really?
Until he got fired for on a live pay-per-view broadcast, pulling a knife on a guy and screaming, "I'm gonna fucking kill you," which apparently was a work.
He's just.
But maybe I don't know who cleared it.
I don't know. Man.
I don't. You're supposed to talk to an agent before you do that kind of shit.
Jesus.
Not great for advertising. You know, wrestling does run on TV sponsorships. So Sakuraba now looking pretty good.
Yeah.
Shouldn't be the young boy anymore.
You think?
Now Sakuraba was not on the first Pride show. He was just a Takata guy.
Yeah, he was just in the corner. He was selling him. Yeah.
The next 12 shows in a row he's on, which is a fight schedule that would never be tolerated today, right? Like a ridiculous fight schedule. But he appears on UFC 12 through 13, including the Grand Prix and stuff.
Jesus.
And their thing kind of becomes, we're going to pit Sakuraba against Brazilian fighters because he seems to be the only one who has a chance with them so far. But the thing about that is, like, that's not really popcorn fights. In theory.
Yeah.
Like you kind of want to protect your fighters to a certain... If you're trying to build a fighter, you want to protect them a little bit.
Sean O'Malley.
Yeah. They don't do that with Sakuraba. But that doesn't mean they're not, like, pulling some shit.
Okay.
So... The first big test they give him is Vitor Belfort. Right?
Which is one of the all-time...
One of the all-time greats.
A Hall of Famer, legit, one of the all-time
He's
greats.
a student of Carlson Gracie. He's coming in, he's got one loss under his belt at this time, and it's to Couture.
Oh, fuck.
So,
yeah.
like, doesn't even count,
Yeah,
right?
doesn't count.
Doesn't count to lose to Randy Couture. He's coming in 20 pounds heavier, but he did just have a knee surgery. And... he takes him pretty cleanly. Like Sakuraba, unanimous decision, Pride 5, takes Belfort out. And this is, another Brazilian guy, a big name, a marquee name. Vitor Belfort is a marquee name for a certain point of his career. And they really cement this classic Japanese booking strategy, right? Which is, you've got a foreign menace, and this is a Japanese hero. And the odds are insurmountable, but he's going to pull it through. The only difference is they can't work this.
Yeah.
Well, now and then. They have their ways. But yeah, so instead of it being, an evil American, an evil Russian, it's these evil Brazilians. The huge superpower Brazil. These evil men who fought their way out of squalor. You know what I mean? And they're starting to look towards what's going to be the next big challenge. The next big challenge has to be a Gracie, right?
Sure.
The money is in the Gracie. You're like the proof is in the pudding, and the pudding is made of Gracies.
That's a wonderful way of putting it. It's still the case today.
I'd buy it. The first family of MMA. They established MMA, pretty much. The UFC was a marketing tool for Gracie Jiu-Jitsu. Hickson is the man in Japan.
Yeah.
Hickson's been winning those Vale Tudos. The first Pride event is designed for Hickson Gracie. Hickson not taking fights right now. But who is taking fights is Hoyer, which I don't know how to really say Hoyler, but I'm saying Hoyler.
Yeah, no, as far as I know.
The Gracies have already, Hickson in particular, have already disgraced Sakuraba's trainers, Anjo and Takata. Sakuraba is Anjo and Takata's boy.
This
is a little redemption story, right?
Of course.
He's going to come back and win it for the family. Hoyler is a bit of an unknown in the MMA world. He's not Hickson. He's not Hoyce.
Yeah.
But he is the most accomplished technical BJJ practitioner. He's won the most tournaments. he's got the most impressive records at straight BJJ.
Mm.
He is slighter. This is one of the only times in Sakuraba's career where he has a bit of a size advantage.
Mm-hmm.
But also the whole thing about Gracie Jiu-Jitsu is nobody gives a shit. Like, so size advantage is the reason Gracie Jiu-Jitsu exists.
Yeah.
So they come in, they organize the fight. As usual, the Gracie camp changes the rules because they always had to change the rules. So they'd make it no ref stoppage, no time limits, no scoring.
Submission or knockout?
Submission, knockout, tap, or towel. That's it.
Okay.
So the fight kind of goes a little bit similar to Inoki Ali. Hoyler's on his back, Sakuraba's on his feet. They're trying to lure each other into each other's position. Sakuraba starts having fun with him. At one point, Hoyler goes for a handshake. Sakuraba fakes him out. You know what I mean? Classic fake out. The crowd loves it. He ends up just dismantling Hoyler's arm with a Kimura. Like there's a point when you watch it where Sakuraba's clearly like kind of pleading with him to give up, looking at the referee, looking at the corner, being like, I don't want to do any more damage. But the Gracie thing was never tapping.
They don't. I mean, the lot of them, they're insane for this.
I remember I thought the Matt Hughes Hoist Gracie fight was fixed because
you wouldn't.
I was like, why isn't he tapping it? Is this a work? What's going on here?
No.
Eventually, the ref calls this fight, Hoyler Sakuraba. The ref calls it, which is technically against the rules, and the Gracie family goes crazy about it. But they like literally just can't let him continue like this.
Yeah.
And this win, beating the Gracie after beating Belfort, after being the UFC champion, now Sakuraba's the man. Like Sakuraba's now top tier main event. Ricky Dozan, Antonio Inoki, what Takada was supposed to be, Sakuraba is. That's pretty much what happens
finally
here.
Have their boy.
The only problem with that is that Sakuraba is still a Takada camp fighter.
Okay.
He's still technically, in the grand scheme of things, beneath Takada.
Sure.
The way Pride is paying camps. Pride is paying teams. So Pride is sending the payday to Takada, who also is an official in Pride, and Takada is paying Sakuraba a salary.
Oh, that's really fucked.
That never changes. So, national hero Kazushi Sakuraba, making peanuts, making a salary, is entered into the Pride Grand Prix. No weight classes. First tournament, 2 nights, several months apart. So one night, 16 fighters, 8 fights.
Yeah.
Second night, quarter semis, final.
Yeah.
They give him Guy Metzger for the first round, who's a Lions Den guy. He's a Ken Shamrock guy.
Yeah. Solid fighter.
And they pull some classic shit here. Some classic Pride shit, which is they contact Metzger super short notice. Like super short notice. Like I think like 2 weeks or something. But they offer him so much money that he can't say no. But the Lions Den kind of negotiates this thing where it's going to be a 1-round fight. Metzger will come in for a 1-round fight.
Sure.
It'll go decision or it'll go to finish, but it's going to be 1 round because this is a ridiculous concept. But the money's, it's Japanese Yakuza money.
Sure, sure. Don't fuck around with that.
The fight's kind of going to Metzger. It goes to the end of the round. I would say on points, Metzger wins the fight.
Okay.
But they try to get a second round. The ref's just like, all right, next round. And the camp, like the Lions Den, goes nuts. Ken's in his corner. Ken's freaking out. They're telling people off. They storm out. So now Sakuraba gets to win. And this is pretty like Metzger talks about this quite openly, saying like his career was severely damaged by his unwillingness to go along with this over and over again, this shady, underhanded business tactics by Pride. Pride would often pull shit like this on all sorts of fighters. Not the Japanese ones. But they, kind of last-minute fights with big paydays that they could use to manipulate cards, to build stars, especially with their tournaments. Their brackets were like willy-nilly. Like, they would manipulate the brackets in their tournaments pretty openly. And the great thing about this is that they're going to manipulate this for the next round. Sakuraba's either going to face Hoist Gracie or Takada. Takada and Gracie are going to fight. So, best case scenario, most likely scenario, Hoist is going to wipe the floor with Takada, right?
Yeah.
Like, that's the most likely outcome. And then you get another Gracie, the most prominent Gracie in America, probably just behind Hickson in Japan.
Yeah.
To fight Sakuraba, another Gracie, another huge test, another big marquee draw, right?
Oh, damn.
Or Takada somehow wins, and I don't know if there's a banana peel or a knife, you know,
Act of God,
lightning, and then it's kind of student master.
And as you've been saying, he's not going to show up for this fight. Like if he does have to fight Takada, it's not going to be good.
Oh no, Takada doesn't stand a chance. Again, yeah. Takada would also need Takada wouldn't stand a chance in a real fight, but who knows how. Pride main event, Sakuraba would have. I like to believe Sakuraba would have beat him, because otherwise Takada would have gone and lost for Japan in the finals. You know what I mean? Like Japan needed Sakuraba. I think even Takada would have been like, "All right, kid,
let's go.
Let's make some money here." He's got a vested interest in this thing performing.
Fair.
So this sets up Sakuraba and Hoist for the biggest fight in MMA history at the Pride Grand Prix Night 2 a few months later.
Yeah.
Again, the Gracie clan changes all the rules, right? So they manipulate Pride into agreeing to this rule set, unlimited 15-minute rounds.
Wait. So it's 15-minute rounds, an unlimited amount?
Unlimited. It'll go until it's done.
They love their no time limits, man.
Again, fight to the finish, right? Knockout, tap, or towel. And the audience, but mostly the boys, right? Like the locker room, but the audience too, getting real sick of this Gracie shit. They're getting real sick of the Gracies coming in, making these demands, changing the rules, basically leveraging everything in their favor.
Mm-hmm.
Sakuraba is lambasting them in the press, which is like, Sakuraba's kind of like a laid-back dude. He just wants to, I don't know, watch anime and drink beers and smoke cigs, you know? He shows up wearing a diaper to one of these press conferences just to be like, well, I'm going to need this for the fight because apparently I'm going to be in there for the rest of my life. Like, how long can a man go? So
incredible.
It's incredible. Like Sakura, that's him also. He's working.
Yeah.
He's making money, right? Like, he's coming in here. Imagine,
that's where that wrestling comes in handy, right?
Yeah, that pro wrestling element, but without that, like, arrogant Ali thing, or that, like, unfucking, just intolerable Conor McGregor shit, you know what I mean? Which, it's all a way to draw money, but Sakuraba, like, everyone kind of likes him. You know what I mean? They come in. They're coming in hot too, and they both have incredible technique. Sakuraba is pulling faces to the crowd at certain points. He's smiling. Like, there's one point he's got Hoist on the ground, and the camera's just leaning in, and Hoist is trying something, and Sakuraba's just laying there smiling, mugging to the crowd. At one point, he like fakes pantsing the gi on Hoist. He's really like, he's working it. At one point, they he's got him in a Kimura, and they're locked in the ropes. They're all tangled up in the ropes, and he's leaning back, mugging at the crowd. They go a full 6 rounds. This is an hour and a half fight plus breaks. And Gracie's camp in the break between the 6th and 7th round throws in the towel. Because Gracie basically says, I can stand up, but I can't walk. He's got torn tendons in his legs. He's got a cracked shin bone. Oh. It's all over for him. Now he's the man. Sakuraba is officially the king of Japan.
Yeah.
He's a #1 mainstream star. Helios Gracie comes in and shakes his hand.
Damn.
Which, like, the Gracies aren't all that humble. You know what I mean?
No.
They don't really do that shit. He's the new Kimura.
Okay.
Basically. He's the new Kimura, and he's largely doing it with the Kimura.
Yeah.
Which is, come on, guys. It's been like 100 years. Just figure it out. Roll. Figure it out. Don't hurt me. Please don't hurt me. This is definitely, though, like, this is the peak.
Yeah.
He loses his next fight. Sakuraba loses the next fight. But he just went an hour and a half. You know what I mean?
Yeah. In the tournament. Sorry. Okay,
Yeah. He loses the next fight in the tournament.
Yeah.
But it doesn't matter.
He
just had, at that point, the most successful, like, the biggest drawing and maybe the most grueling MMA fight ever. An hour and a half with one of the top 5 fighters in the world. And wins. Forces the man to throw the towel in. Which is almost like, in a way, worse.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, that's just a straight, I can't go anymore kind of situation. I'd rather be knocked out. Not in real life. Don't hurt me, anybody.
It's not that bad.
No, it's not that bad. It's been a while, though. I don't know.
It has been a while for me, too. Thank God.
He goes on to take 2 more Gracies. So that's 4. That's a total of 4 Gracies.
Yeah.
He takes Henzo, and he takes... I'm saying Ryan. I don't know if it's Hyan. But I'm saying Ryan, guys. That's the name we have, too. He takes Henzo, and he takes Ryan. He actually breaks Renzo's arm with the Kimura.
Of course.
Because Gracies don't know when to quit. The Ryan fight... Ryan was a bit of Ryan ends up dead in a jail cell. You know what I mean? Like
I didn't recognize the name.
Yeah, Ryan was a wild child of the Gracie family. Bar brawler, troublemaker, cocaine, you know what I mean? I'm not saying he deserved to die in a fucking jail cell by any means. But he tries to manipulate the rules classically. He wants to go for a single 10-minute round. Which pisses off the public, it pisses off the locker room, it pisses off Sakuraba, who's, every time he wants to go in with these Gracies, he's got to subject himself to some weird manipulation, some different rule set, something that's going to make the fight harder for him, and he still comes out. And at one point, he's clearly fed up with this kid. At one point, he's got this weird half a mount on his back, and he turns around and starts punching him in the ass.
I remember seeing this.
A little spanking for the
spanking. I remember
for the boy.
Yeah.
And now that he's run himself through all the Gracies, they decide to put him up against Wanderlei Silva, the axe murderer, and Silva knocks the bejesus out of him. Yeah. Silva just
bejesus, by the way, that's such a good word.
The bejesus right out of him, bud. Oh fuck, bud.
Oh fuck, bud.
I mean, New Brunswick's coming out hard. He beats the shit out of him, right?
Yeah.
Which Wanderlei Silva beat the shit out of everybody. Everybody. He's the axe murderer. He comes in and he beats you belligerently as quick as he can.
That's the scariest thing in the fucking world.
That was something
man.
like people in high school. When I was in high school, kids started doing that.
Oh,
and it was all Silva.
Yeah,
it was all Wanderlei Silva.
Fucking terrible.
Trying to look tough. He does come back. He beats Rampage Jackson. He beats Quentin Jackson.
That's right.
He gets a little redemption, but at this point, his best fights are behind him. He gets one more rematch with Wanderlei Silva.
Right.
Much better showing, but he loses to stoppage because Silva breaks his collarbone and it's poking out. It's really not bone through skin, but it's you can see that there's a break and it might come through if they don't stop the fight. So they stop the fight. They put him up against Mirko Cro Cop. And Cro Cop is up there with Silva for the scariest motherfuckers that ever fought.
No, because he is scarier. Because he actually just killed. He was the Spets. He was in he was the Navy SEAL type shit.
Yeah,
man.
He was a psycho, and he looked like a Terminator. He's a robot of a man.
Right leg hospital, left leg morgue. Fucking Christ. Anyway, sorry. Yeah, Cro Cop.
90,000 fans.
Oosh.
Largest MMA crowd in history. Cro Cop's got 60 pounds on him. He's already destroyed Takada, which, whatever.
Yeah.
But that's drama.
Yeah.
That's draw. And he's made a huge name for himself in K1. K1 kickboxing, huge institution in Japan. Kind of like a rival to Pride without all the pomp and circumstances for the most part.
But that was mostly just kickboxing, I think.
Just kickboxing, right? Yeah. Sakuraba loses the match by stoppage. Basically, Cro Cop opens up Sakuraba's eye, and the blood blindness. They stop the fight.
Yeah.
So now Sakuraba's lost 3 of his last 4 fights, right? not a look that any fighter wants.
Especially when you're at that top,
when
right?
you hit the top, and like everybody's got a card, right? Everybody's got a punch card.
Yeah.
You can only take so many blows. You can only fight so many fights before you slip up.
That's it.
Ask Mark Coleman or Mark Kerr or anybody.
Or Anderson Silva. Or
Chuck
fucking,
Liddell. All of them, right? Like eventually, Ronda Rousey.
Yeah.
Once Ronda Rousey lost once, it was pretty much over.
Yeah. She still did fine, but yeah.
She did fine, but there was no reclaiming what. It's not Tiger Woods. You can't come back from that shit and just be the best in the world.
He didn't come back.
Kind of. He did better than I wanted him to.
Love Tiger Woods.
Like I give a shit about golf. I don't care about golf. Sakuraba continues to fight. People don't want him to. Baz Rutten is on commentary saying, this should probably, it's a great last showing for Sakuraba over and over again. You know what I mean?
Right.
He ends up leaving Pride for Akira Maeda's new promotion, Heroes. And I think it's because it's basically the blow up between him and Takada.
They finally
Sakuraba's had enough of this shit.
Yeah.
Like to the point where like by all accounts
he's still
now
on salary at this
he's
point?
still a salary man. He's the biggest star in fighting. Globally.
That's like Conor McGregor being fucking on salary.
Yeah, which probably would have done him some favors, to be fair.
Yeah.
To this day, like they don't speak. Guys who had like a 30-year relationship.
Yeah.
Don't even talk. And you can't blame Sakuraba for that, right? He ends up he goes into a multi-day tournament months apart, but after the first fight, he goes into the hospital for let me say this one, guys. Vertebrobacillar damage.
One more time for the audience.
Vertebrobacillar damage.
Jesus Christ.
Restricted blood circulation to the head and neck from 20 years of nonstop fucking head trauma. You know what I mean? Like things that would it's the kind of shit that killed Mitsuhiro Misawa.
Yeah.
Crippled Yoshihiro Takayama. And he comes back for the second day event, which is a no contest because Yoshida Akiyama, a very decorated judoka, has got weighted gloves and he's greased himself up, which was true. This was proven true. And at this time, years and years of being asked to retire, he doesn't. He continues to fight, pretty much to this day. Now, he's mostly doing grappling contests. He's doing grappling matches with Frank Shamrock for Ryzen and stuff. He's kind of like on the nostalgia circuit.
Almost
right?
There's some fighters that are, Anderson Silva, he does like bare knuckle and stuff like that. Vanderlei Silva is doing the same bare knuckle.
Stop doing bare knuckle, guys. Do a grappling match.
They like hitting each other.
Stop like someday you're going to drive a fucking car into a median, okay? Stop it.
But do you think that as much as the MMA stuff, my body's sore as fuck. I know MMA is punishing on the body, but do you think the wrestling was actually was one of the pro wrestling in particular, even the amateur wrestling, the pro wrestling was a big part of where that damage came from?
A huge part of it. Pro wrestling, especially in Japan or with the American dummies that are trying to always imitate Japan. Like the thing about like a Japanese wrestling match in the 90s and 2000s was it was like being in a fist fight for 30 minutes because they the strong style, the stiff kicks, the stiff punches. Katsuyori Shibata, who gave himself gave himself an aneurysm through headbutts by headbutting a man, collapsed backstage, had to retire. He's back now, but shouldn't be.
Jesus.
The constant falls on your head. Taking these Japanese suplexes, your neck is just boom, 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 and that's how Mitsuhiro Misawa dies. I mean, he dies on the way to the hospital, but he dies in the fucking ring.
Yeah.
You know, the greatest wrestler of all time, by a lot of accounts, dies in the ring in his 50s. And he shouldn't be doing it in his 50s, but it's his promotion, and he's the big star, and he doesn't want to. It's kind of the Takada thing where it's like you're such a draw that even though you should stop doing this, you still put yourself in the card because you know the house will be better if you're on it.
That's it. Yeah. Gotta be tough to let that go.
And also these guys they're always traveling, they're always drinking.
Yeah.
And Sakuraba is very admittedly a man who likes Like he likes
Sake?
he likes a bowl of ramen, and he likes a beer, and he likes to smoke. He doesn't like to lift weights. You know what I mean? Sakuraba's in good shape, like a good natural shape for like he looks like a dude who takes care. He looks like a dude who rides his bike to work every day. You know what I mean? Like he's not a jacked dude, especially in the age. Also, you got to think about the fact that Sakuraba is this dominant in the UFC, or sorry, in Pride, at a time when he's the only person in Pride who's not gassed to the gills. You know what I mean? Like this is a fucking huge doping culture, and
it was in the contract that it said you can do whatever you want.
Like we won't test you.
Yeah.
So now he's working for Ryzen every now and then, which is like the spiritual successor to Pride, like the Pride back office, their new promotion. It ain't shit compared to Pride,
right.
But he just loves it, and he's got this like really varied fight record, right? Like it's not like he's got one of those incredible 101-3 records, you know what I mean? He's won some, he's lost some, but the ones he's won are so impressive and so important. And also like so entertaining. His fights were so much fun to watch. He had fun. He did exciting shit. He did cartwheels out of moves. You know what I mean? Like full on cartwheels. He did the jumping stomp on your face, which is hard to watch, but also extremely captivating.
Yeah.
To watch a man in a fight just try to jump on your head with both his feet.
Yeah.
And then do a cartwheel over you and then like break your arm. Like super fun, and he's also this everyman character, right? He's just a regular bloke. He's got a bad haircut. He loves a laugh. He wants to go for a pint.
Yeah.
You know, so I think Kazushi Sakuraba, one of the most important fighters of all time, the most important Japanese fighter of all time. I don't see any competition for it, really. Tamura has some accomplishments, you know what I mean? There's been people with lots of accomplishments. But I don't think anyone did more for the sport and did more for Japan than Sakuraba did in Pride.
I've heard other people say that exact same statement, so I don't know enough about it to agree or disagree. But that does seem to be other people. I know other people that are smarter than me agree with you.
Yeah, probably smarter than me too. For their sake, I hope so. Well, gang, that's Kazushi Sakuraba, the Gracie Hunter.
One question, I mean, because that's been something that's been brought up in other times. There is such a strong fight culture in Japan. Why hasn't there been a Japanese champ yet? In the UFC, at least.
We're kind of.
Am I jumping the gun?
We're kind of jumping the gun on what MMA in Japan is today.
Okay. So I don't want to bury the lead. We'll get back to it.
Does Machida count?
He's Brazilian.
He's half Japanese.
Is he? I was never understood if he was, because he always just he fights on the Brazilian flag.
It's like his dad's Japanese. I think he's a Japanese immigrant to Brazil. Like as we said, we're like huge, Brazil is a huge.
I never understood how that whole.
I
thing
like
works.
to believe he counts half counts. That's a half count.
Half count. I mean, he's in terms of his approach to the fight game. I was hugely a Machida fan. I thought when he beat what's his face for the belt.
I don't remember.
Sorry, I can't remember his name. I can see his face right now, but I can't remember his name. He was a great commentator. Anyway, the Machida age. I remember. I think Joe Rogan said, "Welcome to the Machida age," because we just assumed he was going to reign on top forever.
Like he had that kind of Wanderlei Silva kind of like dominance that everyone thought like this is.
Well, he just moved.
This is
different,
the new
man.
fighter,
no,
right?
No one.
Kind of like McGregor when McGregor first came out. 100%. People were like, how's he pulling this shit off?
Exactly.
All the time?
Yeah. When he seemed to be just like cut from a different cloth, and then it just. So anyway, we'll.
I don't want to spoil anything because we got a super fun episode next week.
Okay.
Because next week we're gonna be doing something that's not super fight centric, but I think very important to talk about and a lot of fun. And fucking Vice TV got to it like a month before I did, and I only found that out while I was writing it, and I was looking for clips on YouTube of fights, and I saw this shit, and I was like, oh. God damn it, they're telling the exact story I wanted to tell. But I don't care.
We'll tell it anyway.
This is podcast. It's a saturated thing. Everybody's telling the same story.
There's only so many stories to tell.
So many stories to tell. And nobody's going to tell it in the super haphazard, constant stalling way that I do. We're going to talk about the decline of Pride, the death of Pride.
I mean...
The shady... backstage dealings of Pride Fighting Championships and what killed MMA in Japan.
I'm because I've always wanted to know this. I don't know this. I was always curious about. I know UFC was getting bigger and they bought them out, but it's when they were the real competitors there for a while, and I
They
don't
were
know
the
what
king.
happened. Yeah,
Pride, UFC was a stepping stone to Pride.
yeah.
You know what I mean? They were the apples and oranges.
In terms of viewership and everything, right? They
Viewership pay off the fighter quality.
yeah.
So let me just say, the UFC did not kill Pride.
Okay.
We'll leave it there for now. All right, gang.
Appreciate you, man. See you soon, guys.